Greetings, and thank you for joining the Capstone group for this important Zoom event. Before we get to our main presentation, a bit about the Capstone group. We were founded in August of 2018, inspired by the Howard University student protests that took place earlier that year. We are a dynamic collaborative of Howard University alumni, faculty, students, staff, and community that proactively address issues relevant to the Howard University community. We provide an empowering platform to exchange ideas and experiences to affect positive change. Now, sit back and enjoy the presentation, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
I am Dr. Velma Lapoint. I'm a professor of human development, youth development, and family studies in Howard University's School of Education. I am truly delighted and thrilled to moderate this panel, The Axis, Bisons Abroad. I've actually traveled to most of the panelists' regions and countries that they are living in. So what would your life be different if you were studying, living, working, or retired abroad? During this pandemic, we have all been living in unprecedented conditions in the US. We are in quarantine at home and in quasi-lockdown, going from room to room in our homes, front yard, backyard. Maybe we're going outside to parks, going to the grocery store, taking out some takeout restaurants, patio dining, and maybe visiting our doctors as needed. We are clearly not able to travel abroad due to many of these restrictions. This evening, we're pleased to hear from our distinguished panels, those Bisons who are studying, living, working, and have retired abroad. Our 6 panelists are Ariana Black. Okay, our next panelist, Kim Jack Riley. Our third panelist, Janetta Sally Elena Abraham. Our next panelist, Iraka Rosandura. And our 2 panelists from Panama, Bill Damani King and Carol Ife King. So our first panelist will be Ariana Black.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here celebrating this virtual homecoming with you all. Yes, my name is Ariana Black. I am a class of 2016 graduate at Howard University. I graduated with my bachelor's in health science with a concentration in physician assistant studies. I am originally from Palm Beach, Florida, and living now in Jamaica.
Our next panelist is Janetta Zali.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Or I guess it wouldn't be evening for some of you, but wherever you are, hello. I'm Janetta Zali. I'm a 2010 graduate of Howard University College of Arts and Science with a bachelor's in political science. Originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, but I now am a citizen in Ghana. I live in Accra, Ghana.
Our next panelist, Kim Jack Riley.
Hello, everyone. Very lovely to see everyone here this evening. I usually don't give away my age, but it seems as though there's a few people on here that already know it. So class of 1981, and started out in the School of Psychology, but then quickly moved to School of Journalism, where I then went on to a career in journalism and then tourism. And I now live back home in Brighton, UK.
Thank you. Our next panelist, Eraka.
Hello, my name is Iraka Rotherone. I am Howard University School of Communications graduate class of 1983. I was proud to wear the crowns of Miss New York and Miss School of Communications. And I pledged Delta Sigma Theta's Alpha chapter while there. I did not pursue a career in journalism, but I have instead become an empowerment specialist. And I am currently living in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Our next two panelists, Bill Damani Keene and Carol Ife Keene.
Hello, everyone. Ife, we had an interruption in our day today, so Ife may not be able to join us. But anyway, she's from New Jersey, although born in Tennessee. We met second day at Howard, freshman year, married in our senior year. We're both class of 1966. Some of you will remember me from my staff position. I came back after grad school to work at Howard, retired in 2004 so that we could relocate to Panama. And so I've been retired since then. We've been now in Panama 16 years as of about 2 weeks from now. Love it here.
So we are now going to go back to each panelist, and you will talk about 5 minutes about your experiences in the country you reside in. And again, this will take us probably for about 25 minutes, and we will then open it up to the audience members for our Q&A. So first we have Ariana Black.
Hello again. I am residing now in Jamaica, going to medical school there. I would definitely suggest that anyone who is interested in possibly studying abroad to take that opportunity, as the opportunity was presented to me, and just jumped on it. I love it there. It's wonderful weather, food, people. The beaches are fantastic, but besides that, I feel like the academics of Jamaica and their standards excel my expectations every day. For example, the first week of being in medical school, we went into the hospital and we were able to interact with patients, and that's something that has been ongoing ever since. So the experience is something that really can't be matched. I feel like if I was somewhere else. One of my favorite things about the program that I'm in is being able, like I said, to be active, which is nice. Instead of just theory, we get to actually practice, and just being somewhere different. I feel like it's something that everyone else should experience, even if it is, you know, not for a living situation, but just to experience different cultures. What brought me to Jamaica is school. The opportunity presented itself, and I was excitedly, I guess I was excited about the opportunity and went for it. I guess the hardest thing that I would say about transitioning to a different country was trying to get a feel for what the expectations are as far as, you know, what is the norm to them and what's the norm to me, and how I can integrate those two things. My experience so far has been really life-changing. I would say that it's somewhere that I would want to stay for a long time. I've gotten a chance to know a lot of different people. I would definitely say that it's been a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to see what the experiences I have in the future. My goal in doing this, I plan to become a pediatric surgeon. So that is what I will pursue after this opportunity. Something that always resonates with me is, you know, a math book is the same in New York as it would be in England, as it would be in Jamaica. So the information is definitely there. And like I said, the standard is a lot higher in some ways. So it kind of pushes me to excel even more. So I'm very happy with the choice and the experiences that I've had so far.
Thank you for your opening comments, Ariana. The next person would be Kim Jack Riley. Yes, Kim.
All right, so my journey is sort of a little different. I was born in London, raised in London, and my parents, of which my father was from Trinidad, decided to move to the US. And I think that that's an important part of my journey, because it was with the move to the US that I discovered Howard University. And it really was the perfect home away from home. It was the place that fulfilled all of those pieces that I didn't even know were missing. And it had a lot to do with diversity. I can remember exactly the day that I discovered that there were members of you'd say soccer, but the football team that were actually from Trinidad, and Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean that were attending Howard University as well. So it was a very, very diverse community for me that really sort of propelled me into an international feeling of home. So I just really wanted to mention how important Howard University is and will always remain as that community that it's indelible. There's friendships, there's bonding, there are relationships. You learn about people from all parts of the world at Howard University. But after that, when I really started to sort of, delve into my career in the United States, there was still always a part of me that was missing my actual home, which was the UK. That for me evolved over time into a need, a desire to go back and find my actual home, which is the UK. However, as time evolved, I got married, I had my own child. So life happens. You can't just like pick up and go back. It's sort of like when they say you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. So you start to think about, how do you redefine where that home is next going to be? And I think for the purpose of this conversation, what we decided as a family was, what are going to be our next criteria? What are those tick boxes that we have to say, this is what we want next in our life, and redefining it? And so one of those things, I would say, include healthcare. We just felt that we could do better in the UK than we can do in the US. I don't really want to say quality of life, but it's the quality of the life you make it. And that might include access to music, food, travel around other parts of the world. So these were the sorts of criteria that we were looking at when we were looking at, where do we actually, now we have the choice to go and live next. So these were all very important criteria. I think that language is sort of an odd one to mention, but I think it's important when you're actually needing to communicate. And I'm not sure that we could communicate in an area where it would be a foreign language. So the fact that we can all speak English here actually makes a difference. And just a general feeling of manageability, because America had just become so big and so, I want to say disjointed, but California is different to Chicago, is different from New York. And so all those pieces were just a bit overwhelming to put together, whereas the choice to be in England, where it's just smaller, it's just a smaller place, and you can sort of put that all together. So I hope that makes sense. There was definitely a time where I wasn't understanding everything that there is to understand America. So if you're not American, you know, how does that come naturally to you? And so that becomes the foreign piece, that you're just always a foreigner. And so it might be a good idea to go somewhere that you don't feel quite so foreign.
I'm learning so much. We will go on to our next panelist. It would be Zali.
Hello.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Janetta or Zali, either one is okay. So again, greetings everybody. I am Zali, who is the daughter of Carlene, who is the daughter of Francis, who is the daughter of Macy. I'm also the daughter of Mary, who is the daughter of Susie, and who is the daughter of Vicky. And so I just have to always start by giving homage to the women of my family who came before me, who in their own way set the stage for me to be able to do the things that I do now and live in the way in which I live now. So I am, as I said earlier, a 2010 graduate of the College of Arts and Science at Howard University. My degree is in political science. However, I'm an educator. I have been in the field of education since I graduated, so 10 years now. And attending Howard really kind of set the groundwork for me recognizing that there is a life outside of the US and being able to explore that. And just as one of the other panelists said, being exposed to a number of different types of people all over the world of the African diaspora was really, really an amazing experience for me at Howard. So it really just kind of opened my eyes to make me realize, because coming from North Carolina, you know, there's a certain mindset. So just recognizing that there's other places, there's other opportunities. And so with that, I had my introduction really into Africa, and via friends of mine from Howard, professors, whether they knew it or not, they all planted seeds for where I am today. And so currently I live in Accra, Ghana, and I have been here full-time a little over 3 years now. And I ended up in Accra actually when I was living in South Africa. So I was there first, and I took a holiday to Ghana. And immediately, I think anybody who has visited Ghana knows, once you come once, you can't just not go again. And for me, I was like, oh, I'm going to live there. So I came for a holiday when I lived in South Africa. And as soon as I returned back to the States, I immediately felt the pressure that the States naturally kind of has. And I was like, this isn't going to work. I have to go back to the African continent. So within 2 months of being back home, I was making plans to transition into Ghana. So I only spent about 10 months back in the US before I moved to Ghana. And so currently I am an assistant principal at Multi Kids Inclusive Academy. And I'm also the co-founder of Her Collective, which is the organization that basically helps bridge the gap between the African diaspora within my age group and Africans on the continent. And we do that through edutainment. So we post a number of different events that seemingly seem social, but really they address a lot of the miscommunications between our cultures. And one of the hardest parts about living in Ghana is, as African people, we can sometimes be tribalistic. And so African Americans are just another tribe in Ghana, to be quite honest. So there's a lot of, who's the best type of thing that goes on, as opposed to let's all understand each other. So that's the premise behind Her Collective. It's with a sister friend of mine, Afia Kojwa. So that's really what I've been doing here. And also I'm a charter member of Gamma Alpha Sigma Zeta, which is the graduate chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. We are so excited, the first sorority chartered in Ghana, and there's so much work that we have been doing unofficially and now officially. And so it's been a really, really beautiful experience. I have my passport here. I don't know if you all can see it. Yes, I have to show it every chance I get. I'm also a citizen here in Ghana. So it was important for me to feel like wherever I was, it was my new home. And so being able to get citizenship last year meant a lot for me. It meant a lot for my family and my bloodline and the people who come through me, and even those who aren't directly related to me, but through our community connection, we're related. It's really a Sankofa full-on experience. You know, this is not a place that I thought I would be, but I'm here and it's really worked out for me. And I'm also an aspiring farmer. So I'm in the process of getting my land to start a poetry farm. And that's something that I'm really just tapping on some ancestral wisdom and forging forward with it to see how it turns out for me. And so hopefully when you all come to Ghana, I can get you some fresh chicken. If you eat chicken, they will be free range chicken. So, you know, they'll be more healthy than some of the other ones on the market.
Okay. Well, thank you
but
so
even if
much.
you're not a meat eater.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My bad. And I came for freedom and the opportunity. So.
Okay. Thank you so much, Zali. So we're going to go to our next panelist. That would be Iraka.
Well, greetings, everyone, and hello to Bison family that are viewing. My name is Iraka Rother-Rondeau. It was Michelle Price when I was at Howard University from 1979 to 1983. As I mentioned, I was pretty active socially, in the School of Communications, Miss New York, and I also pledged Delta Sigma Theta's Alpha chapter while there. Very, very proud. Howard University was my first experience of saying yes to the unknown. I grew up in Queens, New York, and no one in my family had ever been to college before, much less go to college out of state. So going to Howard was my first time, my initiation into saying yes to the unknown, and I will always treasure it for that. Also at Howard, I met people from all around the world. So being introduced to other cultures was part of my Howard experience, and I think prepared me for living abroad. In the mid-1980s, shortly after graduation, I went to the Caribbean for the first time in February. That was the last time I went to the Caribbean in the winter, because I came back and I wept for 3 straight weeks, knowing that somewhere, while I had on 75 pounds of extra clothes, there were people walking around in shorts and flip-flops. And I vowed that I would one day be one of them and would never have to. I wanted winter to be a verb. That was one of my motivations. I wanted winter to be a verb and not a noun, something I chose to do, not had to do. So that was the first thing. Not long after that, the Keens announced that they were moving to Panama. And that inspired me to stop thinking about visiting another country and actually think about living there. And I did go to Panama actually and spend some time there. It wasn't right for me. It's a beautiful place. It's a great place to live, but it wasn't right for me. But what it did was introduce me to an environment, a human environment that I have never experienced in the United States, where people are kind to each other. Well, let's say Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, you kind of get that. But where people are kind to each other, where people aren't, and where it is rude to lock eyes with someone and not acknowledge them. In Mexico, you greet and then you bless. Hola, buenos dias, hello, and good morning. You greet and then you bless. And I haven't had any kind of a negative interaction with anyone here. I've been living in Mexico since February of 2019. I had to go back to the US because it was unplanned by me, but the universe had a master plan, and take a few months to settle things down there. But I've been back here for since October of 2019, and I love it. There are enough conveniences here for me to not go through culture shock. I can walk to Costco. Yes, there are high-end upscale supermarkets here, there are movie theaters here, the beach is here, the mountains are here. Anything you could, their malls are here, anything that you could want in terms of American culture, you have access to here. Meanwhile, you're surrounded by people who, and I'm going to use this word deliberately. It took me a long time to think about what word best describes the people here and living amongst Mexican American and Central American people. It's contentment. It's contentment. The people here are content. Some of them are dirt poor, but they are content. It is a level of peace and satisfaction with life as it is that I have not experienced in the United States, where it's always, I don't have enough, I gotta get more, and that pressure and that energy that was, one of the panelists spoke of earlier. I have been Airbnb-ing to find a neighborhood. I have been in the anti-racism work for 3 decades. A sister tired, she tired. And I left the United States to leave white people behind. Now, most of the, I'm on Blackcation. I'm on Blackcation. I don't want to have to walk to the store black. I don't want to have to go to the movies black. I want to walk and be as a human being, and I can do that here. The only comment I've gotten is that African Americans are cute. I would hope they meant me personally, but I think they were talking about us as a race.
Okay, well, thank you, Eraka. We're now going to turn to Damani and Ife King. Might be just Damani, but let's hear from Damani in Panama.
Okay, thank you. Took me a second to unmute. The other panelists have touched on so many of the things that, just mean so much to us living overseas. But I'll start by saying this. We were inspired. It was funny, Iraka said she was inspired by us. And Zali, we were inspired by a trip to Cape Town, South Africa. We went there and fell in love. And we're just enthralled. We came home, we told our kids, hey, we're thinking about moving to South Africa. And our oldest said to us, well, see you when you get back. And that was kind of a wake-up call. We realized, 20 hours one way and the expense of travel and our kids with families and mid-career and so on, it wasn't really going to work out. So, but immediately, and I won't tell the whole long story. It's a great story. We discovered Panama, and our reaction was Panama. Listen, we found out, there's a lot of benefits here, and Iraka talked about some of the really, interpersonal and human side of life, which we find also to be so appealing. I always like to say, no place is perfect, and Panama certainly has its, drawbacks from time to time, customer service being one. But overall, we truly enjoy it here. This is Panama City, and this is a few years back, actually. So the skyline is maybe almost double that number of high rises that you see in that picture. But it gives you an idea of the fact that many of us think of any place out, particularly Americans, we're just so ignorant, So we think any place outside the United States is all, jungle or, something of the other. But listen, I want to start with this if I can, because this is Indigenous Peoples Day. And we are close to the land, that's the map of Panama, and the red area is the people known as the Ndobe Bugle, indigenous people here in Panama. And if you can see the cursor moving, we live about here. And Panama City is about here. So we're about an hour and a half from Panama City. The Ndobe Bugle are just really some great folks, very strong about holding on to their traditions. They live in some beautiful, beautiful land. And so there are about 6 major groups of indigenous people in Panama. They are, I think, the second largest. One of the great things we like about Panama, Afro-Panamanians. You know, that goes without saying in Trinidad, Jamaica, and UK, and Ghana, of course. But Mexico has Afro-Mexicans and plenty of Afro-Panamanians here. And it made the transition very pleasant. A former Howard student named Kwame from Panama stayed in touch with me after he left. I told him we'd get ready to relocate to Panama. He introduced us to his mom, who's still here, and her family. So we immediately had family here that told us where the barbershop and the beauty parlor were, you know. And so we love it. We should get paid by the Chamber of Commerce because we could do commercials from now until the cows come home. So I'll end there. We'll take questions.
Okay, thank you, Damani. So we're going to now open our session up to participants. We've got a chat box, but we're also entertaining questions directly from our audience. I would say we would have about 20 minutes for Q&A. And also, I can throw in not only from participants, but if panelists want to ask questions, although we'll give our participants a chance, panelists can ask questions of other panelists. So we could start right now.
Okay, well, I'd like to hop in, and I have a question for everyone. What is the biggest adjustment that you had to make when you moved?
There were 2 things. Number one, the practical thing was just adjusting my mind around the money. Ghana's economic system goes up and down. Things fluctuate, prices fluctuate a lot. And then also the whole art of negotiation. So everything is a process. Everything is to be negotiated. So even now, I still struggle with that. I just want the price. And people are like, no, you give me your price. And I'm like, just tell me. So it's that thing. And then the second part is just kind of getting rid of the idea of how things are supposed to be, because Americans are very arrogant. And so we go into other people's spaces thinking this is how it's supposed to be. It's like, said who? Because you do it that way in that country, but this is not that country. So you sometimes, or at least for myself, I have to check myself and say, well, why is it taking so long? Why can't we just do it this way? That's not efficient. This and this, you know? And really it's like, it's not that it's not efficient, it's just not the way you were trained. And Americans have a tendency to, I think it's a part of the slave mentality to like work yourself to the bone. And then other people in other parts of the world just don't have that same work mentality. Like, no, it's time to go home. I'm going home, you know? And so getting the mindset shift around those 2 things were really important for me.
Yeah, so Wendy, what I would absolutely say though, as well, is that before you can move, you can't just pick up and move to another country. You've got to research the visa process. You know, how do you get a visa? How do you get sponsored for a visa? Can you work in that country when you get there? That is, I think, the primary challenge. You just can't walk it. You can't just walk into the UK. You can't just walk into the US. and just say, I want to live here, right? So that is the piece that you've got to actually really establish first. How are you going to get through the legal process of being able to live in that country?
I just want to add to that. It really does depend on the country. Some places their immigration is way more strict than others. A part of the reason I didn't stay in South Africa is because their immigration policies are too strict for my liking. In Ghana, like I said, everything is a negotiation. So even if you forgot to go down there this month to pay the fee, maybe you forgot 6 months, as long as you come with the money, whenever you come, they will make it work for you.
I did just pick up and move to Mexico. When you come here, you get a 6-month visitor's visa. This country survives on tourism and avocados, but mostly on tourism. So they don't want any barriers for anybody coming here and staying as long as they'd like, spending as much money as they like. And that's what people do. Mostly Americans and Canadians come here in December, they stay 6 months, and then they leave. If you want to live here year-round, just get on a plane, go to San Diego for a weekend, and when you come back, you will have another 6-month tourist visa. So you literally can just pick up and move to Mexico. Of course, you should know, what the other laws and things are, but it is very easy to come here and be here. They want people to be here.
So I would say Panama is kind of in that category as well. And Costa Rica was probably the first country in Central America to actually offer a program for people to come. You come and live here. And Panama came into that game. They call it the pensionado program. So a person who's on a pension. So you can be any age and be a pensionado in Panama if you have some sort of guaranteed income. You have to show that you're not going to be a burden to the state, in other words.
Right.
So, so with that comes several benefits, discounts on everything, the shorter line at the bank, the shorter line in the grocery store to get your cold cuts, little things like that. But the line at the bank, I'm going to tell you, that's a big one. But Sawanda, you mentioned adjustments. The two big adjustments. One was the weather. Where Ife and I live, the weather is perfect. And some of you have heard me say this before. What is perfect weather? Perfect weather is when you buy a house with no heating system and no air conditioning. So that was a wonderful adjustment. We love it. When I get chilly, I put a t-shirt on. So
I have a fireplace.
That's not it. So the other adjustment is, and I think it was Kim who mentioned the language. This is a Spanish-speaking country. There are many people here who speak English, but we live out in the countryside where the percentage of people who speak English is lower than it is in the city. Most of you professional people, the lawyers, the doctors, we have to do business with speak English, but you need to know some Spanish, and so we got tutored for about 10 hours, one-on-one before we left, and we got here. We took a class for several months, a couple times a week. My Spanish is still terrible, but we make it somehow. And like Iraka said, a smile and a buenos dias will take you a long way. Take you a long way.
A long way. A long way. Yeah, the people here really they respect your acknowledgement of their culture and that you are stepping into their culture. And when you demonstrate that, they embrace you. They really do.
I'm curious, Iraka, if you found what we found here. We found people to be what we would say in the States is standoffish. But once we break the ice, once we, as you just said, acknowledge in Spanish, hello, good morning, como está, big smiles, everything's great, because they can look at most of us and see, even though a lot of Canadians here, that maybe we didn't grow up here, you know.
That's not been my experience in Mexico at all. In fact, sometimes I have to be monosyllabic because I don't feel like engaging at the level that people want to engage in. People are very open. Yeah, people are very friendly. They'll talk to you. They'll ask you where you're from. There's a genuine curiosity and openness. I haven't found that to be the case at all.
Different.
For me, the hardest thing about living in Mexico is chilling. I am not a chiller. I was born and raised in New York. I went to Howard while working full time. I had, executive director and fundraising jobs in corporate America. I am naturally, high energy. People here are chill. And, I'll get bent out of shape about something small like running a stop sign. And people here are like, whatever. There's no road rage. The driving rule here is, I may have just missed you by an inch, but I missed you. I missed you. So it's all good. So that's a big part for me. And you don't need to learn how to speak Spanish here. There have been people who have been living here for 30, 40 years, and all they don't know how to do is order a beer with lime. So it is easy to exist here without learning a whole lot of Spanish.
All right, let's get Ariana in on this, and then we're going to move to the questions in the chat. And just FYI, I'm going to start in the order that they came in. So James Morgan, and let me know if I'm getting your name right. Is it Orand or Orande? And you can just put that in the chat. And then Kim has a couple of questions, and Jamila has a question. Okay, go ahead, Ariana.
Okay, so to touch on what has been the biggest adjustment, it would kind of tie into Mr. Miller's question within the chat, which is being away from my family. I feel like, yes, I was originally born and raised in Florida. I went to school in DC, so that was a different experience to be away in a different state and be away from them. But going to a different country is a totally different thing. So I feel like that was the biggest adjustment, is to kind of be on your own and figure out, how to maneuver, how are you going to get around, for me to school and to, get groceries and things like that, adjust to the culture. That would be the biggest thing. As far as Mr. Miller's question now is, how did my family adjust to me moving away? I feel like now that I've been living in Jamaica and they've had the opportunity to come and see where I live and, have that experience themselves, they would want to move there too. I have a few family members that are like, okay, I want to live here. So it's been an adjustment, but it's been a good thing.
Thanks. So James Morgan has the question, do you think that you've impacted how people in your new home view Africans in America and our history? If so, how?
I don't know that, other than African Mexicans, they know our history. Now, they are deeply concerned about what's happening in the U.S. with Black people now. A lot of people are well read on that and experiencing that and express their empathy. But that hasn't been my experience. That I don't think I've impacted the way they see Black people.
Many Afro-Panamanians have lived in the U.S. Or they have relatives that live in the U.S. Several, I'm a retired guy. And so a lot of the people that we know are our age and are retirees, and many of them are Panamanians who worked for 30, 40 years in the US and have retired back in Panama. And so there's already a degree of familiarity, but it really is interesting to sit and talk with an Afro-Panamanian about their experiences in terms of being Black in Panama and the comparisons and contrasts with the U.S. So I wouldn't say that we have had any particular influence per se, even though, on an individual basis, we probably do, just sharing our experiences. But we had, I think about 3 years ago, we had a Malcolm X birthday observance at our house, you know, with a mixture of Afro-Panamanians and Black expats. So, you know, we're pushing.
Yeah, it's a really difficult question, and I think Damani had mentioned earlier, there is no perfect place to live in the world. The UK certainly would not be considered perfect, but how anyone here could make a difference to the perception of African Americans in America, it's almost unfathomable. I mean, it has to come from inside America, you know, and so the perceptions and the changes that have to occur, they have to occur in the United States. I can't imagine that anyone here could actually make an impact on how that would be made better over there.
So in Ghana, with the current administration, there is a big push to reach out to the African diaspora. So there's even an office under the president's wing or executive office that's strictly for the African diaspora. So with the work that I do with her collective and the work that the government is doing around bridging that gap, the Year of Return, the Beyond the Return campaign, all of those things are changing the perspective of how Africans born in America are viewed and perceived in Ghana. There's been a lot of misinformation about African Americans. And I think since I have been here, there's been an influx of African Americans just coming to visit. There was already a lot of us here living, but a lot of us have also just come to visit. And I think that has greatly helped our African brothers and sisters here. I like your shirt. You know, realize who we are outside of how we are being portrayed maybe in television and in film. And so, and I think that's really, really critical for us because the misconceptions are great. I mean, they're really, really big. So this whole Beyond the Return and Come Home and the citizenship, all of those things are intentional, and people understanding who we are and what we bring to the table as well globally. And because a lot of them don't know. And so I would say yes, because I'm a part of that whole Beyond the Return and all of that. So I would say yes, definitely.
So I think that some of y'all answered Orande's question. So in the interest of time, we'll move on to Kim and then Jamila and then Monitha's question. Kim asks, what is the process for Panama? What is the process for residency for Mexico?
Our experience was, 16 years ago, but as I mentioned before, you have to show, if you want to be a resident, we have the equivalent of a green card for US. So if you want to be a resident, you have to show that you are, you have some guaranteed amount of income. It's not much. I don't know what the current dollar amount is, but normally Social Security alone is enough. And that's really about it. There is a process. It can be done by yourself. We recommend a lawyer. We recommend our lawyers, as a matter of fact. You just go through the process. But there are some others, for those of you who are of in higher income brackets, there's an investor visa that you can get. There's a reforestation visa you can get. You can come and open a business if you hire a certain number of Panamanians in your business. So there's a number of different options.
The same for Mexico, a number of different options. Special visa if you want to work here, if you want to be able to earn money, either with a Mexican business or starting your own business as an entrepreneur. That said, again, most people don't do that. You get a 6-month tourist visa here. And every time you leave, when you come back, you get another 6 months. So people come, they stay somewhere in there, they'll go back to the US, go back home, check on the kids, check on their house, go shopping, and then they come back here. There are people who lived here for 30 and 40 years and do not have a visa. So it just depends on how vested you want to be in Mexico.
Can you buy property if you don't have a permanent residence?
Yes, you can. But there are no obstacles to you spending your money in Mexico. There are no obstacles. Whatever you want to do to spend money in Mexico, there is a way for you to do it. There are people who buy condos and do not have resident visas at all.
Okay. And Jamila asked, we with young children, how about education?
So
Anyone comment on that?
in Ghana, you have a few options. There is GES, the Ghana Education System, and that's the government sector. You have the private school sector where you have Ghanaian owned and operated private schools. And typically they follow the British curriculum. Some of them follow an American IB curriculum or a Lebanese curriculum. Those are like the top tier ones. And then you have international schools, which are the higher priced private schools that are geared towards the expat international community. I work at an international school. Those are really expensive, to be quite honest. Like you're looking at spending upwards to $3,000 a term per child, not to mention all the other fees that go along with that. So I would say a Ghanaian private school might be your best bet. Depending on what age of child you have, you could do a local government school up to a certain age. Then I think around your age, you probably want to transition to private school for your children. And just know that there's home education that you will have to do. A lot of our schools use British curriculum. And if you are interested in your child going to school in the States, then you should probably get them at an American school so they're trained in a certain thinking process to be able to take the SAT, ACT, and the examinations needed to enter into university in the States. Because really in Ghana, you know, it's really geared more towards the British curriculum than the American curriculum. However, IB programs are popping up left and right, but still most of the focus is geared towards the British curriculum and then of course the Ghanaian educational system curriculum. So
I know that we're nearly out of time, but if anyone
we have about 7 more minutes. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Just on the topic of education, if anyone is thinking about moving to the UK, just to mention that it is a different system from the US, and you would typically be required to have had residency in the UK for 3 years before you can sort of like enter the system track, let's just say, for want of a better word. So there's a process, and if anyone would like to email me separately about that, I'd be happy to tell them a lot more about it. But it's not a one-step, you know, from US to UK, if that's what you're considering in terms of moving to the UK. It's just a different process, and it's mainly because the UK university system is sponsored by the government, so they sort of want you to get in and get out much more quickly than you would stay in a US university system where you would pay and keep paying and keep paying and keep paying for 4 years. So that there's a few nuances, but there is a 3-year residency piece that comes along with it.
There are 2 questions from Monifa, and one I'd really like for you all to address. are there HU alumni groups in Panama, Jamaica, Mexico, and the UK, and have you utilized them? And then the second is about transporting pets to your new country. Have you transported pets to your new country?
The pets thing, again, in regards to the UK, there is a much more, it used to be that there was sort of like a 6-month quarantine and it was really difficult to bring your pets. But now, if you can pay, you can get your pet over here via many means. Again, if anyone would like to email me about that, I have information about it, if you're thinking about moving to the UK with your pet. And the UK, by the way, is extremely pet friendly. I mean, pets are life here.
In Ghana, you really just need to arrange it with your airline. My soror just brought her dog, and basically the airline had a requirement for the type of cage. She was able to take the dog on flight just within that cage. Some airlines require that they go in cargo. It just depends on your airline. But once you arrange it, it's fine. You just pay the fee for the dog and follow their restrictions, and it's okay. I will say though, dogs and cats are they're pets, but not really in Ghana. So you also want to be mindful of that. People don't really look at them the same way as they do in the States. So, you know, your dog could be assaulted or something like that, just because people don't look at them as the same type of thing. And I know the question was specifically asked for some of the other countries, but there is an alumni group for HU grads in Ghana as well. So if you want to join that WhatsApp platform, then just let me know. And I think one of the members is on here as well. So
There's not enough of us here to do much of anything unless you're really into like organic farming and living off the earth, and I'm not. So come on to Mexico. Let's start up.
I think at last count, there were 7 Howard alumni that I know of. I mean, there are so many new Africans from the U.S. who have come to Panama. I'm just finding them on Facebook. There's about 3 different groups, and I'm just finding some of them. But I know of 7 probably Howard alums here. We have not tried to organize.
I don't think there's a group in Zimbabwe. You know, I think we tried to start one because we have several, you know, people from Howard alumni that are in Zimbabwe. It would be good to try to start something there.
Yeah,
I've been there for years.
Yeah, we know, a long time.
Long time. Long time.
I would say a good starting point would be to look at the universities. I know Howard comes to Ghana every year to University of Ghana. And so usually people kind of end up staying, or if they come, they go back and then they come again. So if you are in the area and you don't have a group, start looking at the universities. Does Howard bring students there for alternative spring break or study abroad opportunities, and then see how many of them are transitioning back, and maybe you can gather up some more folks that way. I think Ghana's in an interesting position because we just have a really big African diaspora population here. So typically you can find a little bit of everything and every type of Black American here in Ghana.
And Ariana, you want to hop in?
Yes, there is an HU alumni group for Jamaica, so I would definitely check it out. Facebook and Instagram, possibly.
Okay, and that'll be a good little point to wrap this up. And I will just say that if you look in the chat, Karen Shropshire just mentioned that London has an HU alumni group, and Nigeria also has an HU alumni group. All of the alumni groups and contact info can be found on Howard's website.
That is true.
And let me just make another announcement. Through the administration, Howard has memoranda of understanding with the governments of Jamaica, of South Africa, because we do have projects doing research and service projects with faculty as well as students studying abroad. So we need to check and see what the administration has on record.
Well, that's it for our event. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to become a member of the Capstone Group or make a donation to our scholarship fund, click on the link below. Take good care and enjoy.